The Cult of Ragnarok plans for the destruction of Asgard and the Asgardian gods, as well as bring about the downfall of the entire region of the Northlands. Your heroes catch wind of this plan and embark upon an 11-part adventure campaign in order to thwart those plans and to save everything the heroes hold near and dear. That is the premise of Northlands Sagas for Tales of the Valiant and Dungeons and Dragons 5.5 from Kobold Press, and I'll share my review right after this. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to be sharing my review of Northlands Sagas for Tales of the Valiant and Dungeons and Dragons 5.5 from Kobold Press. This 192-page hardcover is available now. It carries an MSRP of $39.99. You can bundle it together with the PDF for $49.99. Or if you want to just score the PDF, you can do so for $24.99, all by way of DriveThruRPG. Having said that, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Northlands Sagas from Kobold Press. A few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Kobold Press were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. We are also not going to be taking a look at each and every page of the book. I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside. Then lastly, this is an adventure campaign. So if you're a player and your dungeon master or game master has picked this up, maybe they just haven't started running it yet. Maybe they're talking about picking this up. Keep in mind some spoilers ahead. So I just want to warn you right up front. Now, of course, if your DM/GM has been kicking around picking up Northlands Sagas, let them know about this review. That way they can approach this book and make a far more informed buying decision. First thing we'll do is take a peek at the credits page. A lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to life. So let's give credit where credit is due. If you're not overly familiar with the Northlands, it is a 2-volume set, which has recently come out from Kobold Press. This is the adventure companion to the Northlands World Book. Now, the Northlands World Book that's available right now is statted for Dungeons and Dragons 5.5. I do believe the Tales of the Valiant edition is arriving in July. Now, as far as Sagas goes, it is for both Tales of the Valiant and Dungeons and Dragons 5.5, which of course also means that you could pretty easily convert this to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It's important to keep in mind that you do need to have the Northlands World Book in order to utilize Sagas, because the bestiary stat blocks, almost all of them are going to be found in the world books. That you can't just pick this up and start running these adventures. You are not going to have all the necessary stat blocks for your bestiary, NPCs, things like that. This is an 11-part campaign. It is an epic campaign, I will say, because the player characters learn of this Cult of Ragnarok that is looking to bring about the destruction of Asgard and the gods, as well as all of the Northlands. The player characters are actually going to start off with Loki as kind of a bit of a patron, kind of pointing them off into the right directions. Now, that's only early on in the campaign. And then, of course, the player characters will interact with the various different Norse gods. One of the cool aspects of this campaign is each of the player characters is going to receive a rune stone from Loki, and the rune stone is going to be tied into a particular deity. Now, you're not going to double up. So, as an example, you wouldn't have two player characters with Loki's rune stone. And as the campaign continues, the runestones become more powerful as the player characters advance in level. So the player characters learn of this cult, and of course, they embark on an epic campaign in order to stop this cult from awakening Fenris and releasing Fenris and attacking Asgard. I will point out that these adventures aren't especially long. I'd say 2-3 sessions for the most part for each of these. You're going to get a lot of gameplay out of this, but we're not talking about 5-6 session adventures strung together to make up a campaign. Now, on the flip side of that, you're also not looking at just single session adventures for the most part as well. So we do have the 4 different acts, and of course, the stakes become higher and higher as the player characters progress through the acts. Now, as far as the production quality, very, very solid, good paper stock. I will mention the copy that I got from Kobold Press had some little tears up top on some of the pages, which is fine. I get that as a review copy as opposed to someone who's purchasing the book, getting those little torn pages there. But just wanted to point that out. I don't know if it's because something was stuck together as far as the printing or something like that. Just mentioning it because you may have seen it as I was flipping through earlier. Artwork throughout, very solid. As with the World Book, some of the artwork is a little muted in its detail. Kind of surprised at that. Now, for the most part, the artwork is really, really nice throughout. But I will mention that some of the artwork just, I don't want to say it's bland. It just doesn't seem like it's very detailed. Anyway, but as far as the production quality, this does have a stitched binding, so this is going to hold up pretty well. As far as the maps go for the adventures, I think that's too small. I really do. And I understand Kobold Press is trying to squeeze as much content into the book as possible in the fewest number of pages. I completely understand. But also, it's important to note Kobold Press is not a publisher which includes PDFs with the physical books. Now, granted, you can get the PDF at a pretty steep discount, but you are paying an additional price for the PDF where you would be able to enlarge those maps. So I do want to mention that it seems like the maps in this adventure collection are smaller and a little less detailed maybe than I have seen in previous Kobold Press releases. As far as the adventures themselves, pretty entertaining here. I will say that as far as the Northlands goes, with the Asgardian gods, we don't go too far off the beaten track. So there is familiarity there. Now, for some, that might be good. For others, might not be so great. But as far as the adventure campaign itself, I could see as a player having a pretty good time with this. And I would say probably it's towards the end of the campaign where the player characters are hobnobbing a bit with the gods, especially late in the campaign, are probably going to be the highlight moments. But all in all, very solid adventures throughout. Something else I will mention as far as the adventures go, these adventures do skew more towards Dungeons and Dragons mentality than Tales of the Valiant mentality. And what I mean by that is Kobold Press releases a lot of adventures. They normally will have a little bit of an old school mentality to the proceedings. Now, they are certainly not old school Renaissance adventures by any stretch of the imagination, but they do feel a little old school in their approaches. That is not the case with the adventures here in the Northland sagas. Now, some people might appreciate that it's more D&D than Tales of the Valiant. I like the Tales of the Valiant style, to be very honest. But all in all, this is a solid adventure campaign. I certainly would not call it spectacular, but I could see having a really good time involved with playing this and running it as well. So that is a peek inside Northlands Sagas from Kobold Press for Tales of the Valiant and Dungeons and Dragons 5.5. Let's swing out over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. Production quality, solid. Good paper stock. Colors pop pretty nicely off of it. As far as the book holding up to repeated use, it does have a stitched binding, so that should not be a problem either. As far as the artwork throughout, I sort of had the same feelings about the world book as I do with Sagas. Some really good artwork, and then there are some other pieces that are sort of ho-hum. They just feel kind of bland or maybe just a little muted. They don't seem sharp. They don't feel detailed. And again, maybe it's just my eyes looking at things a little bit differently. Do want to also point out that the maps in the book are too small for the most part. Now, I'm not sure if there's a digital map pack available. I don't think there is. And I do have to ding the final score of Northland Sagas because unlike other publishers, Kobold Press doesn't include a free PDF. So right there, it would eliminate the issue of the maps being too small because you would have digital copies. You can enlarge them if you'd like. That's not the case here. Like I said, as far as I know, there is no digital map pack, which is available for free with your purchase. And if there is, I do apologize to Kobold Press. I just didn't stumble across it. So do want to point out, maps are pretty small. The adventure campaign itself, it's good. I wouldn't say it stands out. And I think part of that is because it does skew towards the Dungeons and Dragons style of adventure, as opposed to the Tales of the Valiant sort of adventure. It just feels more like a Wizards of the Coast adventure campaign than it does a Kobold Press adventure campaign, if that makes sense to you. If you are familiar with Kobold Press releases, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Still, once again, I could easily see players having a good time. I would have a good time, no doubt, running it for my group. So I'm not trying to dissuade you from taking a look at this campaign. I'm just saying it does feel more like D&D than it does Tales of the Valiant. So in the end, I give Northlands Sagas for Tales of the Valiant and Dungeons and Dragons 5.5 from Kobold Press a 7 out of 10. I do recommend it, but I do also want to point out some of the critiques that I had for this book. All right. If you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a few ways. First, by utilizing our affiliate links to the One Bookshelf sites, such as DriveThruRPG. And to do so, simply visit thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a 5% commission on most of those sales. And all those commissions really do add up, help keep thegaminggang.com around. You can also make a one-time donation by way of PayPal and become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links down in the show notes. Also, down in those show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free to sign up. So be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to see here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you like the video, by all means, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. And if you ring the bell, be sure to select all notifications, because YouTube is supposed to not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central, as I bring you the latest in tabletop role-playing game news and more. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.